So, you've probably seen this word pop up in headlines, right? Kompromat. It's one of those terms that sounds like it's been pulled straight out of a Cold War spy movie, a shadowy, secret weapon used by Russian intelligence. But what does it actually mean? What is it, really? Well, let's pull back the curtain and take a look. Okay, so at its simplest, compromat is exactly what it sounds like, compromising material. But, and this is the important part, we're not talking about your run-of-the-mill blackmail here. This is a systematic, state-sponsored tactic. And get this, the material doesn't even have to be real. It can be completely fabricated. The goal is always the same. Get leverage and use it to manipulate or discredit someone.
All right, so we know it's a tool for spies and the fuel for some pretty huge scandals. But how does it actually work in practice? How does an intelligence agency go from zero to having this kind of power over someone? That's the question we're going to dig into.
To really get a handle on Kompromat today, you gotta go back in time, back to its origins with the KGB during the Cold War. Their classic playbook had a very clear and very infamous strategy: seduce and surveil. And the most famous tool in that playbook was something called the honey trap. It's actually shockingly simple. The KGB would use attractive agents, both men and women, to lure their targets. And these targets could be anyone: diplomats, journalists, high-level officials. They'd be seduced into a compromising situation, usually in a hotel room that, surprise, surprise, was already wired with hidden cameras and microphones. The whole process was just chillingly methodical. Step 1. Find a vulnerability. Is the target cheating on their spouse? Do they have a secret that was considered a major social taboo at the time? Step 2. Seduce and document. Get everything on film. Then comes Step 3, the endgame. Use that tape to either blackmail the target into cooperating or, if they refuse, just leak it and completely destroy their reputation. There's a perfect case from 1957 that shows you how this worked, but also how it could backfire. Joseph Alsop, a really well-known American journalist, was targeted in Moscow. The KGB set him up in a gay honey trap and got it all on film, which, back then, could have absolutely ended his career. But when they tried to blackmail him, Alsop did something they didn't expect. He walked straight into the U.S. Embassy and confessed everything. By exposing the secret himself, he completely neutralized the KGB's power over him. But here's the thing you have to understand. Kompromat was never just about sex. The honey trap was famous, sure, but the KGB's arsenal for gaining leverage was way, way bigger. I mean, they were looking for anything and everything. Evidence of financial corruption, like taking bribes or shady business deals. If they couldn't find anything, no problem. They'd just plant evidence, like drugs, to frame the target. And if all else failed, they'd just create dirt out of thin air, forging documents, doctoring photos. If blackmail wasn't the goal, they'd just pivot to pure character assassination. For a perfect example of this in action, look at the case of Yuri Skuratov in 1999. He was Russia's top prosecutor, and he was investigating deep corruption right inside the Kremlin. Then, all of a sudden, a grainy video pops up on state TV showing a man who looks an awful lot like him with two prostitutes. And then the head of the FSB at the time, a guy named Vladimir Putin, goes on television and confirms, yep, that's him. And just like that, Skuratov was fired and his investigation completely vanished. It's a brutal reminder that Kompromat isn't just for foreign spies. It's a ruthless political weapon used at home. Okay, so let's jump forward to today. Those old KGB methods were effective for their time, but technology has completely rewritten the rules of the game. We are now in the age of digital Kompromat, where everything moves at the speed of light. Think about the difference. This slow, patient work of stakeouts and physical bugs, that's been replaced by mass digital surveillance. Old-school paper files are now terabytes of hacked data, and instead of carefully leaking a story to one newspaper, you can just drop it on social media and watch it go viral across the globe in minutes. And now we've got AI-generated disinformation thrown into the mix. It's a whole new ballgame. The 2016 hack of the Democratic National Committee is basically a textbook example of modern Kompromat. Russian military intelligence didn't need a honey trap. They just used simple spear-phishing emails to hack in and steal thousands of private communications. And they didn't just dump it all at once. They strategically leaked the material through fake online personas and websites to cause the most political damage possible, right in the middle of a U.S. presidential election. It was a hack and leak operation on a massive global scale. Now, of course, you really can't have a conversation about modern Kompromat without talking about one of the most explosive and, let's be honest,
controversial examples in recent memory. The Steele dossier. For this, we're going to be very careful and stick strictly to the facts as they were reported in official investigations.
This whole thing really breaks down into three key parts. First, you have the allegation, which came from the dossier, that Russia had gathered compromising material on Donald Trump. Then, you have the official findings. Major U.S. investigations, like the Mueller report, looked into this and stated that they did not corroborate those specific, salacious claims. And finally, you have the response from Donald Trump himself, which has always been a complete and total denial, calling the whole thing fake news and a witch hunt. In the end, the allegations remain just that, unverified.
So, when you step back and look at the big picture, whether it's a dusty file from the 1950s or a massive data breach from yesterday, the fundamental goal of Kompromat has not changed one bit. It is, and always has been, a powerful weapon of influence.
And you can really think of it as having two faces. On one side, it's about internal control, a way to silence political opponents and make sure that everyone in a position of power stays in line. On the other side, it's about foreign influence. Blackmailing foreign officials? Sure. But maybe more importantly, actively working to undermine democratic systems by pumping scandal, division, and chaos into their politics.
That phrase right there, informational violence, is pretty powerful, isn't it? It really gets to the heart of what this is all about. It's not just about collecting secrets. It's about weaponizing a very basic human fear. The fear of being shamed and publicly humiliated. Sometimes just the threat of releasing the material is enough to bend someone to your will or just take them off the board entirely. And all of this leads us to a final and frankly very unsettling question for our time. For decades, the power of Kompromat was based on the idea that the dirt was real. But what happens now? What happens in an age of artificial intelligence and hyper-realistic deepfakes when compromising material can be perfectly faked? When it becomes nearly impossible to tell what's real and what's a fabrication, how do you defend against that? That's the terrifying new reality we're all facing.